Vinyl Dawn. Day by day. Vinyl sat on a hillock, her eyes closed. Her breathing was slow and calm. A soft breeze rustled her bright blue mane and tickled her white fur of her ear, causing it to flick. The small shifts of her body made little noise, even with the white plates of armor covering her. Though the same armor wasn't all that comfortable. It did do its intended job for the most part. The breeze rustled the long grass and tree branches. The only other sounds were the soft humming of the grazers feeding nearby, accompanied by the rhythmic thuds of the patrolling watchers. In the distance, Vinyl could hear the louder thuds of a thunderjaw. What it was doing, she didn't particularly care, though. She lived for these moments of peace, the times when her sister and her weren't fighting for their lives against the machines that try to kill them. Though normally they only tried when one of them was either missed by a stealthy kill shot or did something to antagonize them on purpose. Then again, Vinyl always did prefer the louder option, so it was usually up to her to attract the attention of their prey while Aloy snuck around for a better vantage point. Aloy always preferred the stealthier approach. The stealthier option worked most of the time anyhow, which is why Aloy was out hunting and gathering resources while Vinyl just stayed there. Aloy wanted to upgrade one of her bows, and the best way to do that was by farming machine parts. The best way to do that was sneaking around and stealth killing a bunch of scrappers. Vinyl gave a soft giggle and opened her eyes. Irises of crimson streaked with light blue looking over the world. Dark clouds loomed over snow-capped mountains in the distance. The blue sky overhead was slowly beginning to take over by the same clouds. It looked like snow, but it was probably going to be heavy. The last snowfall had not melted off. A light dusting was still on the ground, not enough to cover the tall grass and bushes, but enough to be noticeable. Made for good tracking, though. On the note of tracking, Vinyl's eyes lowered to the small herd of grazers at the bottom of her hilly vantage point. The strange antlered quadrupled machines fed their heads, absorbing nutrients from the ground. They occasionally walked around the patches of tall grass and scuffed away the snow and lowered their heads to feed. A watcher walked into her vision, slowly plodding along. The long-necked and long-tailed biped paused. It raised its head and looked around. The bright blue light of its single eye lens shone over the various grazers. Vinyl smiled and just closed her eyes. There was a light hum from her horn and felt like something clicking. When she opened them again, the world has just shifted. Everything had darkened and was tinted into a bluish light. The grazers and watchers were outlined. The path the watchers had been taking showed up footprints onto the ground. As she looked at the watcher, there was a light hum, and suddenly different parts of the watcher lit up in a bright yellow. Information filtered into her mind. It wasn't really anything new, yet the main weak point was a central eye lens. There was another hum from her horn, and she levitated an arrow out of her quiver. The blue light of her magic shone clearly through the blue fog, and if she wanted to, she could take out the watcher for some parts. Vinyl bit her lip, and she levitated the arrow in front of her eyes. Then again, that spooked the grazers and get the watchers on her flank. With a sigh, she just slid the arrow back into her— "Vinyl!" Aloy's voice shouted into her ear. "Gah!" Vinyl yelped. Her vision swam as everything shifted back to normal, and with a painful twinge, her magic broke and the arrow clattered to the ground. There was a high-pitched whine as the yellow light covered her. Vinyl shook herself and looked down to see the watcher and a couple of close grazers staring right at her. Their eyes had turned into a bray yellow. "Uh-oh," Vinyl murmured as she got her hooves backed away and slowly. At her movements, she noticed that the rest of the grazers and the two other watchers were just staring at her. Suddenly, all three watchers' eyes turned red in unison. As one, they let loose into a horrible, high-pitched wail. The grazers immediately bolted away, splashing through a stream nearby. As they did, the watchers did the opposite and bolted towards her. Entirely caught by surprise, Vinyl backpedaled. She turned and almost slammed her face first into a tree. She managed to shift back just enough, but with a hiss, her shoulder hit the bark. Her armor took the hit, but her shoulder would probably still bruise. She had more important things to worry about anyway. Her hoofs managed to make purchase on the snowy ground as she pushed off the tree right as a watcher slammed into where she had just been leaning. She bolted forward with no real plan in mind, and the wails of the watcher shrieked right behind her as her hoofs pounded over the ground. She ducked behind a tree. "Vinyl!" Aloy's voice called into her ear again. A watcher skittled past her, sliding onto the snow. Vinyl's horn hummed to life, and an arrow was yanked from her quiver. Her eyes lined up the shot. "I'm a little busy, sis!" She snapped as her horn hummed louder. She felt the building energy along the shaft, and with less than a thought, the arrow shot forwards as she released her grip on it. It whizzed through the air, and unfortunately the Watcher had managed to right itself, and an arrow only took a chunk of the plating from its back. Vinyl, I need your help! Aloy sounded quite panicked. Give me a sec! Vinyl snapped back. Watchers! Watchers, what did you do? Aloy asked as the second Watcher appeared to her right, and with a howl it tried to leap at her. Vinyl ducked and tumbled forward. She was now face to face with the first. She growled as the Watcher backed up, and her horn flared up once again, and she yanked something off of her back that made for such situations. A hammer of silver metal with a head of white plating smashed into the Watcher's head. Said head ceased to exist in any tangible form as the hammer, fully engulfed in bright blue energy, smashed it to useless scrap. You surprised me, Vinyl yelled. I cried out, now this is happening! She whirled around as the second Watcher made to leap at her. Vinyl set herself reading to swing again, only for something to smash into her side. She was thrown to the ground as her hammer dropped in front of her, and with a thud, Right! There were three of them! She groaned and yelled, feeling her side lance with pain. I could use a little help if it's not much trouble! Aloy called out again. Give me a sec! Vinyl snapped. A dull blue haze covered her vision as she got to her hooves. Her horn thrummed in a deep bass note, and the two Watchers seemed to be backing off. Vinyl growled and gritted her teeth. Oh, no, you don't! She breathed, and raising her head as a pulse ran up to her horn. Snapping her head forward, a bright blue ball of light and sound rumbled towards the Watchers, and the snow absolutely disintegrated, and the ground was cracked as the ball rolled forward. The Watchers didn't appear to know what was happening, seemingly lost in their processes. On contact with the first Watcher, a ball burst into a deep note that rattled Vinyl's bones. The Watcher was torn apart, shards, scraps, everything flying in every single direction. The second Watcher was only a tad more lucky, staying in mostly one piece as it was thrown a good distance away, but missing its legs and tail. Vinyl's head swam as her vision returned to normal. She dropped to her haunches. Whew! Man. She lightly shook her head, trying to clear it. Her side ached and her horn stung just a little bit. Vinyl! Aloy called again. I'm coming! I'm coming! Vinyl shook herself once more and got to her hooves. Her horn twinged a bit, and she retrieved her hammer and slung it over her back. What's got you so bothered? Scrappers aren't hard to deal with, you know. I got the attention of a Thunderjaw, Aloy yelped. Vinyl's eyes widened. What? Wait, why didn't you start with that? I've not wasted my tearing blast on some stupid Watchers. She closed her eyes as the world shifted. On opening them, the world was once again dark. There was a ping not far off with the text Aloy next to it. Doesn't matter. Anything would be helpful. I'm out of Terror Blast arrows, Aloy yelled. Now that Vinyl had a moment to listen, she could hear the cacophonous noises of the Thunderjaw made in the background. Vinyl shook herself one final time as the blue darkness faded away, leaving the ping in her vision. She stomped a hoof, narrowed her eyes, and set her jaw. Don't worry, sis. I'm on my way.